Living in Florida can be a balancing act of sea, sun, and sometimes surprises. So in this video, we're going to go over all of the pros and cons for living in Niceville, Florida, one of Destin's suburbs. Let's get into it. So for this video, we thought it would be fun if one of us is Team Pro and one of us is Team Con. I don't know why a farting sound was what I made there, but I did, so that's what we're doing. So starting off with our very first pro, we can't start off one of these videos without the biggest pro of living here in this area of the Emerald Coast, and that is the beautiful scenery. So Niceville obviously has a quick access to all of our beautiful white sandy beaches, emerald green waters, sometimes not as emerald green waters, just depending on the type of year. It is not just the beach that we're talking about. There are also other types of water that you can get out on, as well as the overall aesthetics of the entire city is very beautiful as well. So with all the walking trails and different things, which we'll talk about here in a few minutes as well. But just the overall landscape of Niceville, Florida is absolutely beautiful.
If you're into that sort of thing. However, I'm just kidding. I love Niceville, but I gotta play my part.
Team
right?
Team Con.
Stick to the plan. Stick to it. I hate Niceville. I actually really like it. Hurricane season. Look, here's a big con for you. Okay, yeah, all the aesthetics might be absolutely breathtaking, and you can do all the things and so much room for activities. But one activity you probably don't want to deal with is packing up due to a hurricane coming through. So keep that in mind. From June 1st all the way to November 30th, every single year, you have the potential for, some big old rains and tornadoes and things that are accompanying some hurricanes. But I will say that if they are coming, we're going to have plenty of notice. So while it is a con that you would have to deal with it by living here instead of maybe in California where you have earthquakes, one pro to this con is that you will have plenty of advance notice.
True.
So you'll have like a week to decide to go on an unexpected vacation somewhere else and then come back and create, whatever repairs are necessary. If there are any, just kind of, if it's a Cat 3 or higher, go ahead and leave so you don't have to deal with, power outages, toilet paper outages, food and alcohol outages, and just general disarray of plants and various things around the property. It's just kind of annoying, especially during those months. It's not quite cool yet. So if you don't have electric and you don't have AC, it's going to be kind of muggier than usual.
And of course, if you do decide to stick around, just make sure you get plenty of alcohol before it sells out and stick in for the ride.
Hashtag Florida man.
Now, for those of you that'll be living in Niceville, or maybe you're considering it, one of the most common questions we get asked about each individual city is, what are the crime rates like? And unfortunately, as real estate professionals, we're not really allowed to answer that from our point of view, but we are allowed to give that from others' point of view. So when we're looking at the national crime statistics, or we're looking at major websites that follow this stuff, that's generally where we're coming out with this information. Niceville does consistently rank in one of the safest cities in the state of Florida. In fact, it was named as the safest city in the entire state last year by Safewise.com, which is basically a crime statistics, like news outlet, I guess.
So if you want to be boring and not have any crime near you, fine, move to Niceville. Also, if you want to deal with super hot summers, I'm going to go into another con here because, that's what I do today. So
negative.
So in June, you're going to have these horrible average temperatures of 77 degrees, and then it's going to go up to 79 in July. And then come August, you're looking at like 88 degrees. These are on average, and that's not even incorporating all the humidity during this time frame. So you're going to be like, I want to go to the beach, and I'm going to go hang out over there, and it's going to be super gorgeous, and then you're going to burn and melt. You're going to look like a vampire in the sun. Maybe not immediately, but in like 30 years. So make sure you're protecting your skin whenever you do that.
We're really writing Team Con there pretty strongly. Okay.
As I pack up to go to the beach after this.
For those of y'all moving with a family, another question that we get asked quite a bit is about the schools. And, well, you're in luck because Niceville rocks schools out of the park. So Niceville High School is actually ranked top 50 in the state pretty consistently. I know it was the last few years, and I'm pretty sure if I look back further in the history, it's probably like that as well. And when you're putting that in perspective, you're thinking top 50, that's not really all that much. Well, there are thousands upon thousands of schools here in Florida. And then the other schools in Niceville as as well. I think it was everyone that I could find in there also ranked in the top 100. That is one thing that Niceville is actually really, really known for. It is part of the reason why so many families try to push into Niceville is because of the schools and the low crime. So we've definitely got both of those covered here in Niceville. Now go ahead and ruin it for everybody, AJ.
It's a good thing that the public schools have public buses because they're the only ones, kids are the only ones that get public transportation in Niceville.
You serious?
Okay, now that I've composed myself, there really isn't any public transportation in Niceville. So if you're someone coming from like DC or another big city and you've been heavily reliant on public transportation, maybe never even got a driver's license, it's going to be a little bit difficult here. You are going to have to go and get a car or spend tons of money on Uber. Thankfully, Uber is pretty readily available like all day and all night long in the area. And depending on where you're going, it's not very expensive. So there are some options while you practice driving and then getting your driver's license and then purchasing a car or borrowing a friend's, what have you. Just know the public transportation situation is not going to be beneficial.
For my military friends and people that like to live near military, that is the next pro on our list. Niceville is very military friendly. In fact, it sits right outside of Eglin Air Force Base and just a few miles away from Duke Field as well. So if you're up there in that Crestview area, working and living in Niceville, that's an option. And it's right there next to Eglin. So, it's like a matter of minutes to get there, which is super cool for anybody that's working out there. And probably part of the reason why a lot of the military members and contractors that work at Eglin actually live in Niceville outside of all the amazing pros about Niceville that we have, AJ. Now go ahead and tell us all about your next con. We can't wait.
So, I like how you said it was cool, but it's not. It's humid all year round. I talked about,
It is humid.
It is humid all year round. Although I did just find like a new way to apply my hair product, so it's not quite so frizzy. I feel really good about it. However, if you're in the military and I don't know what they're wearing these days. We're not in BDUs anymore or Digis. I think all of those are gone now. It's some other thing. Some other thing that you still like sweat from top to bottom and you feel it in your boots whenever you're out at the motor pool. Guess what? You're going to feel it all year long here for all of my military friends because we all did motor pool. I don't know if everybody still does that now, but why are you looking at me like that?
Nothing.
So if you're going to be outside in your uniform, you're going to be sweating a bit for all but maybe 2 months out of the year. So there's your next con for you. Year-long sweating.
Now, for those of us that are not going to melt with a little bit of sweat, our next pro on our list is all of the outdoor activities we have here in Niceville. So you've got all the basics. You've got the fishing and the boating and the hiking and the trail riding and the trail walking and then, golf. Lots and lots of golf. In fact, the Eglin Air Force Base golf courses there, and I'm just saying it's one of the best, most beautiful golf courses I've ever seen. Now, in all fairness, I've only seen like 10 golf courses, but it's still really, 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 really beautiful. So now back to Negative Nancy.
You gave me this position.
You're welcome.
Thanks. It has been really fun.
Better
actually.
you than me.
Okay, this one's actually kind of a serious con, all right? Stop looking at me like that. There really aren't a ton of job opportunities in the Niceville area, right? It's not a very big land mass or, career area. Not if you go onto Indeed or Cleared Connections or something like that, you're not going to see a bunch of job postings in Niceville. There are, however, lots of jobs on Eglin, which, Niceville's right next to. So that does provide some careers there. You've got a couple of medical facilities and then you've got the schools. So if you're into teaching or something related to the military or DOD, something like that, then there are some options there. But if you're outside of either of those realms, there really isn't a whole lot outside of like working in a restaurant or something like that. So that being said, maybe come start a business over here and I'll turn this con into a pro.
The next pro on our list is the community events that Niceville holds. Now, outside of all of the community events that are happening in Destin, Fort Walton, 30A, Sandestin, there's tons of stuff out here because, it's the Emerald Coast and it's a touristy kind of area and stuff. So we've got a lot, but Niceville has its own as well. In fact, my favorite one by far is the Boggy Bayou Mullet Festival. So it used to just be called the Mullet Festival, which is actually about the mullet fish. But what's so funny about it is everybody grows out their mullets. Like some people actually grow out their mullets mullets for this festival. Other people will wear like wigs and stuff. And so even though we know it's about the fish, people just like doing that. So they changed the name to Boggy Bayou Mullet Festival, hoping to eliminate that. They did not. But it's like a big fairground. You've got all of the stuff that you would generally see at a fair. So the rides and winning stuffed animals and a BMX mountain bike and all that stuff. Then you've got a ton of food vendors and art vendors. And then you've also got a venue for concerts. And they generally hold some pretty big names out there. And they're generally leaning on more of the countryside for it. But it's an absolutely great time. You can get big old cans of Foster's and walk around with some brewskis and enjoy the Mullet Festival. And it's fairly cheap. I think it's like $5 or something like that to get in. And don't quote me on that. It might be like $8 or something, but it's very, very inexpensive.
So I almost feel like I don't even have to say a con here because you just told them that there's a huge stinky fishy festival that's going to happen.
The mullet is a very delicious fish, okay? It's a little bony, but it is delicious.
So aside from, fishy festivals, you're also really close to Destin. So while Niceville itself isn't necessarily going to have a whole bunch of touristy stuff going on because we're far enough removed from the Destin Fort Walton Beach area, you are going to be a short distance to it, which also happens to be the same distance that you're going to be traveling to go to the beaches. So you're going to be competing with all of the tourists to access those beaches that you live 15 minutes from. So you're going to have to plan accordingly. Also, if you're considering going into Destin on a Saturday from Niceville, just don't. Saturday is turnover day, and accessing the Mid-Bay Bridge going south on a Saturday is not something you want to do unless you're into paint or, just solo concerts in your car for an hour. No big deal.
I actually like that because you get to be the main singer, the backup singer, the hype man, and the
drummer.
And the drummer.
Yeah, I'm usually the drummer. You can access the beach both through Destin or through Fort Walton Beach. So we like to use this app out here called Waze. If you haven't used it yet, definitely download Waze before you come into our area of Florida, because while Google Maps is pretty cool, Waze will tell you like way ahead of time if there's any kind of traffic, and it'll guide you around it. And it might also tell you where you should obey the speed limit. Just saying.
All right. So once you're getting done with all the tourists and your stress levels are high, you might need to access a hospital. So that is the next pro on our list, is the access to healthcare and, of course, the cost of healthcare. So Niceville has Twin Cities and Sacred Heart Hospital located right there in the middle of the town. So you've got access to both of those, and they are fairly sizable. And because of that, it also helps keep your costs down for healthcare in general. It's a couple of $100 cheaper per year here in Niceville than it is the rest of Florida. I'm not entirely sure how that compares to the rest of the country, but the quick search that we did said that the average healthcare cost in Niceville was a little over $4,000, like $4,020 or something like that. The average in Florida was closer to $4,300, and this is for the whole year, not for 1 month.
While the healthcare might be a little bit cheaper, the cost of living is not. Okay, it's actually not really that serious, but compared to maybe Fort Walton Beach or Crestview, so our very close neighbors to the north and south, the cost of living is a little bit higher. But if you look at it as kind of like another Navarre's off to the west and it's got the beach, while Niceville's over here to kind of like the northeast, if you will, and it's got the bay with tons of bay accesses and, water sports. If you're into that sort of thing, I mean, why would you be? So the cost of living is a little bit higher in Niceville. You're able to find some much older properties that have been around for years and years and years, and they're a little bit lower on the price scale. And then you're able to find some brand new builds that are considerably more, or some waterfront properties that are also considerably more. So yes, the cost of living is a little bit higher just in the regards of the property itself, but I hate to say you get what you pay for and kind of break script here, but it's really hard to stay negative all the time. So there's your con, cost of living. Niceville.
And just like AJ said, it is because you are paying what you're getting. So the great schools, the great location, the inexpensive crime, all of that kind of wraps up into that, which is why it is a little bit more. And
blah, blah, blah.
Niceville has great amenities, not just in the direct surrounding areas, which is where you're going to find a lot of the stuff. Destin, Sandestin, 30A, all of that. Niceville also is kind of encapsulated with its own little set of amenities as well. So basically everything that you need is there. plus a little bit extra. So there's some great art shops, there's some great, obviously grocery shopping and all the basic necessities, as well as some outstanding restaurants and of course breweries. So if you're into, sitting out and enjoying a nice cold brew, that's always a great thing to do in Niceville because they've got several of them and they're pretty good venues.
Yeah, so many amenities. Unless
oh man.
you're from someplace like DC again, or another big city where you can easily just like walk to all these different places. You're like, oh, I feel like Chinese tonight, or I feel like, Mexican tonight, or I feel whatever the case may be. And they're all right there. You don't have to go anywhere else. That's not the case in Niceville. It's not very walkable. It does have quite a few parks and things like that, but you're gonna walk while you're within them. You're not gonna walk to them. You're not gonna have these beautiful green spaces as you're, having some ice cream because of the scorching weather, walking down the road trying to find some like shady area to catch your breath because of all the humidity. So just keep in mind that Niceville it's not going to feel like a big city. It is definitely going to feel more like almost like a rural residential area, but not quite, just compared to those big cities.
Now, I'm not saying that people in big cities are rude, but that's what I've heard. And that is one thing that Niceville definitely wins at, is the friendly residents. So you are in the South, but you're not so far south that, you're like Miami or anything like that. No fault of Miami. You guys are fine. I'm sure you guys are wonderful people. But the people out here in the Florida Panhandle are absolutely amazing. So you are going to get a little bit of that Southern charm. So just know that going into it. Yes, sir, and yes, ma'am. It's part of our vernacular over here. If that bugs you, I'm sorry. It's going to take us a while to kind of change with the rest of the country. And then not only that, but your neighbors in Niceville, everybody's always helpful with each other, especially after said hurricanes that AJ was talking about before. The community does a really, really good job of coming together and making sure that everybody is covered and good to go.
It's almost like Niceville people are nice.
They're nice in Niceville. I don't know why I didn't think of that. Dang it, I'm losing my touch. All right, bring on the negativity. We're all waiting for it.
I'm going to go back to the whole healthcare thing and tell you why it's not actually a pro. It's a huge con, because while you have those emergency, centers there, what you don't have is specialized care. So like when I broke my foot, I had to go over into Crestview for an orthopedic appointment. All right. I couldn't just go down the road and stay in Niceville. I had to go to Crestview every time, which was like a solid 15-minute drive.
Yeah.
It's a problem. So that's our medical con for Niceville. Yes, if you have an emergency, you can access the emergency room. You've got a couple of different options really quickly. But once you start scheduling those follow-on appointments for specialized reasons or for, physical therapy, those kinds of things, then you're going to have to travel a little ways, like 15 minutes. Go ahead. Tell us something positive about Niceville.
Thanks, AJ. Master plan communities is the next thing I'm going to talk about. Niceville is one of the few areas, or one of the few suburbs of Destin, if you will, that still has several of these. We've got one that's been established for a very long time called Blue Water Bay. It's probably one of the most desirable areas to live in inside of Niceville. It's where a lot of people are looking for. And when I say master plan communities, for those that don't know, these are where, exactly like it sounds, they plan the entire community before they start building. Generally with master plan communities, are going to have a lot of amenities wrapped up inside it. So for Blue Water Bay, for instance, they've got the tennis club and tennis courts, of course, pools. They've got a nice little, waterside restaurant, and a bunch of other little things that I'm sure I'm missing out on. But that's kind of what a master plan community is about. It is about the community in and of itself. They want you to feel like you don't have to really leave that area to get everything done. And not only do we have Blue Water Bay, but now they are currently building Deer Moss Creek, which is probably one of the best master plan communities I've ever seen, and not just here in this area. They have thought of everything. This is going to be a 4 to 6 phase rollout. I'm not sure how many phases they're at now. They're just starting into phase 2. Phase 1 was just these beautiful homes. In fact, a good friend of ours builds out there, just really beautiful homes. And then as it starts winding back, you're going to start having apartments, and then, homes that other people can afford a little bit, because the first phase of Deer Moss Creek is pretty high. I think they were starting out around $550, and now I don't even think you can get in there for under $700 now at this point. Unless, of course, you go into the phase 2 where they're starting to build out there right now. They're going to have have restaurants, you're going to have grocery stores and little shopping centers and apartments and townhomes and other homes and walking parks and trails and bike parks and dog parks and just everything you need to be kind of encompassed right there. And right outside of the community, you've got the Publix, so it is very quick to get your grocery done and head home to your amazing master plan community. So that's our next pro. Go ahead and throw a con at us, AJ.
Tolls. I feel like that's all I gotta say. Tolls. If you are coming in or out of Niceville using the Mid-Bay Bridge, you're gonna pay every single time. Every single time. So make sure you invest in one of those thingies like I have. What are they called?
SunPass.
Yeah, SunPass thing. And it sticks to your windshield and it lets you know when your funds are running low, because apparently I don't have mine on autofill, and so I keep getting things in the mail that I need to pay it again. But it can get a little expensive, right? So if you're living in Niceville, maybe make sure that you're not going to be working in Destin, because those can add up. I think it's like $4 every time you go over it. That's with a SunPass. I think it's closer to like $6 if it's without a SunPass. So make sure you've got a SunPass. Make sure you're not going to be working in Destin, or if you are, you're making tons of money working in Destin. So keep that in mind. Your tolls. I just like making that noise now. Ever since you did it, I'm like, I'm doing it now.
Well, yes, there are tolls going in and out of Destin only. You don't have to worry about that with any other area. So not that big of a deal there. And we can combat this a little bit because the state of Florida has no state income tax. So that 6 to 10% that other states are generally charging, we are one of, I think it's 7 that do not charge state income tax. So you get that little bit of reprieve and you don't have to spend that extra money to the government. So boom, take that, tolls.
Whatever. Hey, by the way, I'm AJ, and this is
Andrew.
And we're local real estate professionals right here on the Emerald Coast with the Emerald Group. All of our contact information is on the screen. If you thought we were hilarious today, then go ahead, hit subscribe, ding the bell, give us a thumbs up, because we love you guys and we can't wait to help you out. We'll see you all at the next one.
See you.